Watch out. Okay, I'm going to ask the question. I want to go right back to my pie in the sky moment. Do you guys, Bradley and Indu, do you think it is at all conceivable that some medical convention could have a guy like Robert Cochran as a keynote speaker addressing this topic, the prescription for wellness, right along with the motor stuff?
Indu, I'll let you go. You're more in the medical field than I. I could give an opinion, but I think Indu's response would probably be more educated than mine.
So I think that, people are becoming more open-minded, just to show some progress. We just proposed a wellness task force at the Movement Disorder Society, which is an international society, and they accepted it. So we just met and we convened a multidisciplinary team of providers of various sorts. We have a sex therapist from Israel. We have psychologist, a physical therapist, a psychiatrist, anyone who can touch the patient and make their lives better. We've sort of tried to have a balance of people because it is an international sort of representation from around the world, and mix it up and really have, an open mind. So we've launched that task force. Right now, we're just in the process of actually surveying the Movement Disorder Society constituents across the world who are, the main people providing care for Parkinson's disease internationally, to ask them what do they know about wellness? Do they counsel people? Do they send people to these different types of therapists, just to get a baseline of, what we have currently. And we're waiting for those surveys to come back. And then once we have that, we're really sort of planning to, they've asked us to write kind of a current state of what the literature shows. And there's not a lot in the literature, to be honest. We've been trying in parallel, Brad and some other folks and I, to write papers, to sort of start to kindle these ideas and make these more accessible. And I think people are seeing some of the light of some of this work. I think from the patient voice perspective, I think there are, for example, the Journal of Parkinson's Disease is now trying to include more publications, including people living with Parkinson's. We published, I and a colleague, Elena Mora, with some women living with Parkinson's who are actually clinicians themselves, about women and gaps in care for women. So I think this is starting to trickle in, sort of hearing patient voices, understanding the concept of wellness, and then trying to affect change. These are some big tasks, to try to even get a session, a plenary session by a clinician, for example, who may be open-minded on board in integrative medicine, let alone having, someone who may not be exactly in the medical sphere, but, allied with it to come in and talk. But I think, the World Parkinson Congress, which is an exciting meeting space, are very open-minded to having, people living with Parkinson's, the people who care about them from a caregiver perspective, researchers and clinicians of all sorts come together. So I will be there in Barcelona, and we hope to have just these types of conversations to see, how we can move the needle, because I think that, the old way of, just seeing people, the neurologist being the center of all care and having 6 monthly follow-ups in 15-minute intervals of visits is just really not adequate. And I think we have to engage the multidisciplinary team. We have to be more open-minded, and the patients themselves are talking about this and bringing these ideas forward. So I think, now is the time. I feel very optimistic that we can kind of really make a difference.
Brad, what do you say?
Yeah, I think that, it's interesting. This paper that Robert, that you reached out about to begin this whole conversation has been really well received. I've received a lot of messages. The challenge has been the messages that I've received have been from the community largely, not so much clinician. And I think that, Indu's got a very unique perspective, and not every movement disorder specialist is like Indu, right? And her patients are very fortunate. And we know several who are like that. And the challenge becomes, how can we get the focus off solely off of figuring out some disease modifying therapy that we're working on? We're spending billions of dollars on that. But the whole reason that I came into this field was to help my mom and say, how can we help someone improve their quality of life? And that's what the patients want. They're saying, great, if you can get disease modifying therapy like we have in MS, that's awesome. Are we close? I don't even know. Doesn't seem like it right now. But it's these things like this that I believe the community at large is clamoring for. They are just grasping at anything we can come up with to say, let's just make your life a little better. And it's what you're doing, Robert, with your improv work and so many others. You know, we're not unique. Indu and me and Greg aren't unique in what we do. We've just been a fortunate working group who have come together and get along great and like to write. And but we're part of the team.
I would say you are unique, and I hope that you become less so because it benefits everyone. Because, like you said, I think this messaging, what I'm terrifically encouraged by, and I want to start with our next episode with this, is talking about a few of those key points, because I think you nailed them very well in that paper. So let's come back to the next one here, and we're going to dive right into that paper with the key points that hopefully drive us forward with what's next.